everybody? This here is the Christian Trucker, and this is my story. Episode 8, I believe. I left y'all off somewhere close to where my brother goes into boot camp. Alright, so I had started working in the building supply that my grandfather owned and my dad ran when I was 12. It started off pretty simple. Sweeping, waiting on a few customers, loading up some molding and lumber, and and as I got stronger, I was able to load up the concrete and the blocks and the shingles. It ended up being a pretty good job. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from that job. It made me a better man. Now, my brother went and joined the National Guard. He always loved guns, and he was always had that mindset, So, he wanted to go in, and it was a little bit early, I think, for him to go in. But he managed to get my mom and dad to sign on the dotted line to let him go in, I think, to boot camp just a little bit early. So he goes in, and that leaves me doing a lot of the labor at our store myself. Not to take anything away from boot camp and those that serve our country, but for a 13-year-old, what I went through that summer really got me fit, and it was like a boot camp of its own. I mean, it strengthened me physically and mentally in a lot of ways, like boot camp is meant to strengthen you physically and mentally. That was a summer of transition for my life, and I would get so hot out there working in the sun, because it was a hot year, man. Golly, it was hot. That we had that mint alcohol, and my arms would get heat bumps on them. They was getting so hot, so periodically through the day I would go in there and wash my arms and hands off. I would have to douse them with that mint alcohol. So pretty much the whole summer I smelled minty fresh. Anyway, so that summer I learned how to drive the forklift. I was driving the 1-ton trucks around the yard, loading up loads. I did a lot that first year, and from that point on, I just increased in my knowledge and in my abilities, and it ended up down the road where I could have ran it myself. That's another story for another day. Today we are talking about my brother and his going to boot camp. Now, he went to Fort Hood, Texas, I believe it was, and he was in the supply chain somehow. He was managing supplies. That's how he started off. And I'll go ahead and tell y'all, my brother stayed in for 22 years. He served 2 tours of duty in Iraq. All of his guys loved him. He started off, like I say, in the supply chain. He worked himself up to staff sergeant. He was a tank commander when he was done with the military. Okay? And I know it's not my achievements, but his achievements always made me proud. And I always like to look back on his achievements and be like, that's my bro, He did that. He had 2 beautiful girls, and we love them both. Don't get to talk to them much no more for other extenuating circumstances, whatever they may be. So he goes off to boot camp. We're working in the store, and folks, this is the time. Look, my dad, he could not stand computers. He could not stand them, and he fought them tooth and nail. But when we finally did get computers in there, it was the original QuickBooks program. I mean, it was the black screen with the green writing and stuff. You type in what you want. It takes 3 hours to print off your reports at the end of the week. I mean, it was super basic. But I was doing some of that too, I was learning how to do all that. My mom, she was collecting the bills, and we did a credit to a lot of our contractors, and every now and then you'd get a contractor that wouldn't pay up. And my mom was a type person where she would run out in the middle of the highway and flag you down if you owed her money and wasn't wanting to pay. If she caught you at the ballroom, she would corner you up at the ballroom. You didn't owe my mama and not hear about it. You might not pay her, but you was gonna hear about it. She was a tough one now. All right, so I spent all summer working and just hustling. And my brother comes back from boot camp. And me and him always tussled. I mean, we took karate together. And him and his friends used to corner me up and beat the tar out of me. And that's how I learned to fight. I don't know if anybody out, I don't know if everybody out there knows what it's like to get hit. And I do know that some people are afraid to fight. They're afraid what it's going to feel like. But once you get that initial punch out of the way and you learn what it feels like, sometimes inside you get that craving for that feeling. For that feeling when somebody punches you and you get that chance to fight and to swing back, and it's an adrenaline rush, and it is, I don't know, I can't explain it. It does something to your insides. That's why you see a lot of the MMA guys, they love it, because it does something for them to be able to be in that ring, to be able to swing and to be victorious. A lot of times you'll see them, even if they lose, they're smiling because they were there. They got a chance to be in the thick of it, Anyway, I digress. Getting off the point, but yeah, that's the kind of relationship me and my brother had. We would fight, but nobody would try to take him on, and I wasn't fitting to be in it. We may fight with each other, but nobody else better fight with us, and I think that's the way families should be. You should be able to fight and still work it out to where you're still having dinner that night or that week or whatever. But anyway, he come back from boot camp, and I didn't know at the time because my family had kept it from me and from him. But me and him both learned in a vicious way. He was my half brother. He had a different daddy. Well, when he goes off to boot camp, these certain people start sending him letters and pictures and all this information about his real daddy. And all I'm gonna say about his real daddy is he's a tool. And well, it really messed my bro up. Well, he comes back and he's got all this inner frustration, right? Well, him and me were walking through the store, through these plumbing fixture aisles that we had. We had made some aisles out of wood, and they were like trays. You could climb up them. They were so awesome. I wish I had them today. But we were walking in between them, headed to the back, and he kept popping me in the back of the head, taunting me, aggravating me. Well, all that led to, I picked him up and grabbed him and slammed him into the wall, and Mama tried to get in between us, and that went from bad to worse. We got into a fight. Well, after that fight, him and my dad had words, which, like I say, he had all this frustration built up inside of him and all these emotions that he didn't know how to deal with, because people couldn't keep their mouths shut. That if they would have just left him alone, he would have been fine. But people cannot leave well enough alone. That's just a fact of life. Well, come to find out, he had a couple nights before took all these pictures and letters that he had got and laid them out in front of my dad. I don't know what he expected, and Dad still don't know what he expected when he did that. But Dad told him, son, I don't know what to tell you. That's part of your life, and you're going to have to find a way to deal with it. And they pretty much left it at that. Well, my bro, he was highly emotional. He was, lack of a better word, volatile. So after our confrontation, and he comes in, he's all like angry at the world now. He went through an angry stage for quite a few years, but him and my dad got into it, and he threw the keys to the store on the ground, and he left, and he didn't talk to us for 3 years. Longest 3 years of my life. He didn't talk to us for 3 years because of all the turmoil and controversy that these people decided to stir up. Now, whether it was the right choice of my parents to not tell him or to tell him or whatever it was, that was their decision to make. There is no guidebook to raising a child. We all make the choices, the best choices that we can with the information that we have on hand. Hey, and look, there's a saying that we have in my family: you raised your kids, you got to screw them up, it's my turn to screw my kids up, you know? And that, no matter what you do, your kids are going to have a level of, what's a good word? Screw up in them. That's just the nature of kids. I mean, we all mess up. That's why God gives us free will, and that's why God is a forgiving God. His forgiveness outweighs his wrath. Always remember that. If y'all don't remember anything else from any video that I ever put up, remember that God's forgiveness outweighs God's wrath. You've never been too far away from God to ask forgiveness. He loves you more than you will ever know on this earth. And he wants you to do well. So after 3 years, my brother had moved a couple counties over, and next thing we hear, he's getting married. So that was the moment when I got to start talking to my brother again. He invited me and my dad and us to the wedding. Me and Dad went to the wedding and were able to be there when he got married. And that meant a lot to us. You know, and that rekindled our relationship and our friendship for the years to come. Sure, there might have been rocky spots here and there. We actually lived in the same trailer for a little while. And if y'all knew my brother, he's not an easy person to live with. He liked heavy metal, and he liked it loud. I didn't. I like country music, and I like it low. When I had my pickup trucks, I wasn't the guy that had the super loud pickup truck. I was the guy that had the truck that had the silent pipes on it, you know. So, like, if I was going hunting, I could sneak out in the woods with my truck and stuff like that. Anyway, I got interrupted because my buddy Steve called, so I'm fixing to call him back, and we'll pick up on the story next time I get a chance. I hope y'all enjoyed these cityscapes that I put on this one. I sped them up a little bit to kind of get a little bit more footage in there because I'm getting a little jammed on my phone. God bless. We'll see you on the next trip.